Welcome to the Social Engineer Podcast, the Etsy, etc. series. This is episode 248. I'm Chris Hadnagy, CEO and founder of Social Engineer LLC, the Innocent Lives Foundation, and the Institute for Social Engineering. And I've been hosting this podcast since 2009. As you know, Patrick left us, so we're changing up the method of this. We love that guy, and we're happy to see that the Layer 8 podcast is back. Can't wait to see the guests that he has on there. I'm sure you're enjoying that. And if not, you should go check it out. It's a really good podcast that Patrick puts on. But we're going to change the methodology for this podcast. But before we get to that, let's talk about our sponsor, which is none other than Social Engineer. Right now, I am sure everybody listening, if you're a company, you are dealing with vishing nonstop. Even if you're a homeowner, you are. But talking to companies out there, you're wondering, how can you possibly do it? You know, that 20-minute CBT you're showing your people every year is not cutting it, and they're still falling for these scams. So check out social-engineer.com. Click on our managed vishing services. See what it is that we do and how we do it. Check out the one and only in the whole world, IVES, the Instant Vishing Education System. And give us a call, an email. We'll set up a time to talk to you and see how we can help your company become more resilient against the threat of vishing, which just seems to be growing each and every day. If you like the topic of social engineering, you should be in our Slack channel. Every day, there's about 1,500 people in there talking about all sorts of things, from pretexting to the psychology of and everything in between. Really, really great channel. We've even had 10 or 12 people find jobs because companies come in and post jobs, and there's people looking. So if that sounds like you and you want to be in a legal, family-friendly chat, then see the link in the show notes. And if you don't, just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to get it for you there. I want to invite everyone who's listening to take a moment to go check out InnocentLivesFoundation.org. That nonprofit is 6.5 years old at this point. And if you're not familiar with the mission, it is to help law enforcement geolocate and track people who traffic children and create child abuse material. And I can't be prouder of the team over there. We're over 510 cases now, which is just truly phenomenal. And we've been able to navigate those deep waters for 6.5 years, and we're still going strong. If you want to support us, you can do so by either volunteering or through your donations. And there's lots of information on the website to help educate you as a parent, a caregiver, or even a teenager if you're having to worry about these kind of problems. Check out InnocentLivesFoundation.org. And if you love the music in the intro and outro, it's none other than the best rock and roll band on earth, Clutch. We love those guys. We are fans of those guys over here. At least I know I am. Can't speak for everybody, but you should definitely go check them out. If you're not familiar with them, you will become a fan with even just one song. Go listen to them. You'll love it. I promise. And last but not least, if you like this episode, give us a thumbs up or a like and keep sending your comments in. We pay attention to all those comments. So when you have ideas, especially for this episode, this series, we would love your ideas on things you want to hear. Okay, so what are we going to do different now that we're not really, Patrick's not here, and we kind of have this, what Patrick used to call the dumpster dive of social engineering podcasts? Well, I decided we're going to turn this into a little news segment. So my team does something truly amazing because we really want to educate people who follow us on some of the threats out there. So they go out and scour the internet and they collect stories for the 4 main vectors of social engineering: phishing, vishing, smishing, and impersonation. And they collect those news stories and they catalog them if they're corporate or if they're personal. And then they either write tweets or small posts about them, make Instagram reels about them, just to notify people who follow us of the kind of attacks that are happening out there. I thought we would take a moment once a month to reflect on 2, 3, 4 of the really, really big stories that came out and what we can learn from them in the last 30 days. And I don't want to cover things that have been covered a million times, so I just want to talk about a few. First, you might have noticed that we were talking about something called the mother of all breaches. 26 billion records leaked. Now, let's set the stage for this particular news story because we know that we know what news does, right? They love to bring out the fantasy and make sure that there's a lot of sensationalism. This is not a new breach. What happened is a group of people took the data from the previous breaches. I mean, we're talking things like Twitter, MySpace, Adult Friend Finder, Adobe, Canva, Dailymotion, Dropbox, Telegram. And they combined all of that breach data, and then they released it again. Now, a lot of those breaches were pretty old, so we are hoping that a lot of the passwords were changed or things were fixed. But anytime we see something like this, where it's now easier for those who are threat actors to find and locate things like this, it makes us a little nervous. Of course, because, now that, 26 billion records is all in one location. So if you want to download, 18 different databases, fine, but now you can download one and get it all. So when we see things like this, it's always a good reminder that if you used any of those apps in the past year, make sure you've got two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication on, especially not using SMS, but maybe an app or some other type of authentication, biometrics, something like that, and change that password. And of course, that survey that says 68% of people out there reuse their passwords, don't be the 68%. So please change your password, make it strong, use a password manager. And then things like this, of course, they're still concerning, but they can concern you less. Okay, let's talk about the story here that's happening in America. Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, he's calling for regulators to ban AI robocalls. And mainly because he just had a deep fake made of him. And they realized that this deep fake came right out of America, someone in Texas. And we know that AI has been making a lot of news lately. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But he's calling for this regulation to ban AI robocalls. So this note mimicking President Biden's voice was sent to 25,000 households. And if you just think about that in New Hampshire, if you got a call, and it's really hard to tell with these voice clones, really is hard to tell. And here you are getting a call from the President of the United States. If it's believable enough, you might just fall for that. Anyone would. And kind of getting to that point, our third news story is a finance worker in Hong Kong who had a literal meeting, a video meeting with someone who he thought was his boss, the CFO. He was told to transfer $25 million and he did it. And of course, he's sitting on a video call right now, like you're watching me here on YouTube. And he sees somebody who he thinks is his boss, looks like him, sounds like him. And his boss tells him, go make this transfer for this payment. A lot of money, but company that size, it may not have been too odd. He goes and he does it. Unbelievable when you think about this. 200 million Hong Kong dollars or 25.6 million American dollars in just one meeting. Whew. Okay, so these three news stories, what can we possibly do? I mean, how are we going to ever fight this? I mean, we're talking about things now like deep fakes, AI technology, mimicking the president, mimicking your boss. It's almost undetectable. What can we possibly do? Well, here's a couple little tips that might help you if you keep these things in mind. First and foremost, if you're getting an email, you want to verify the sender's email address. You look for those subtle misspellings. And I know this might take a little extra time, but so much of it sometimes, if your email, let's use mine, social-engineer.com. Maybe they take away one of the E's or they add an E and it just looks familiar enough for your brain to go, that's my domain. But if you just take that minute to pause, really read it, think, is this accurate? And then next step with the message, what are they asking for? You do those things and that critical thought can help you stop from falling for one of these really serious attacks. Second, be cautious of unsolicited requests for confidential financial transactions. This is a big one, even if it's your job. Now, granted, okay, you're listening to this and I'm thinking about my small company. There's a little chance that someone in my company is going to be asked to do a wire transfer. And they're going to believe it, right? So I'm not looking at the companies like mine, 10, 20, 30 employees. But in that case of that poor guy in Hong Kong, that was his job. He was a finance worker. So his employment was to send wire transfers to vendors or to people they were buying things from. So that wasn't an odd request for him. And having a video meeting where his boss told him face to face to do this, it makes a lot of sense. But when you have these requests, you know what I say? A company asked me, what do we do about this, Chris? Because it was his boss. If it was a real thing, we would expect him to obey. Here's my answer to that. Just like I told you a moment ago to have multi-factor authentication, we need to do that from the human sense. So if I was consulting that particular company, here's what I would tell them. I would say when something that large comes through or when a request comes through, maybe you need to have a verbal confirmation where the person that's about to do the transfer initiates the call, right? So not that the boss calls you and verbally confirms, but let's say that was me. I'm sitting on this video meeting. I get this and I'm like, okay, $25 million. Well, that's a lot of money. When I get off that call, I pick up the phone, I call my boss, and I know I'm dialing the right number, and I say, hey, boss, I was just on a video meeting with you, just confirming you want me to do that $25.6 million transfer to so-and-so. And at that moment, the boss went, what the heck are you talking about? We weren't in a meeting. And it would have saved them all that money and that loss. Again, a multi-factored authentication approach can help fight back from some of these attacks until we have technology that can help us realize what is and is not AI. Third, confirm request via an independent channel, right? So this is kind of what I was just talking about. That multi-factored approach, we want to be able to really utilize a third party channel. But the big important piece of this is that the person who is being asked to take the action must be the one who initiates that multi-factored auth. Right. So that man who was asked to do the $25.6 million transfer, he's the one who initiates that call. If you're being asked to send credit card information, you're the one who initiates that call. If you're being asked by me to go get gift cards at a CVS or a drugstore, you're the one initiating that call back to me at a verified known number, not a number that's given to you. And you don't take action until that. Now, what is this going to take? Companies are not only going to have to set this up, but they're going to have to give employees the freedom to not act in fear. Because I could see that guy, he said his boss said this. Boy, what if it sounds a little fishy? Like, should I stop? Should I go verify this? But my boss said to do it. I don't want to get fired by making the boss mad. Right. So the companies also need to reassure employees that if you take those proper actions, you're not going to be punitively damaged. You're not going to be punished. We want you to take those actions to keep us safe and secure. Fourth, you stay educated on company protocol for financial transactions and adhere strictly to those procedures. And if somebody from the higher up is asking you to not follow those procedures, that should be a moment where you go, I need to verify this. And you get that verified. And you don't have to tell the person on the call, look, I'm going to go verify this. You just do it. Why? Because after you're done with that call, that could be the thing that saves you. And if it was your boss asking you to do something a little sketchy, well, now you got to make a decision if you really want to do that, if you not want to follow the protocols. So always verify. And then lastly, report any suspicious activity to your cybersecurity team. Right? If you have a team at your company and you did something, let's go a couple different routes. So a call comes in or a message, an email, an SMS, and it just sounds weird. Before you take any action, get a hold of your IT team, your security team, and say, hey, this just happened. What do I do? But let's say that you did it already. You clicked that link or you started the wire transfer. I know it may be embarrassing. And a lot of people don't want to report it because they're like, I don't want to tell my company I just did something dumb. I get it. Believe me, I do get it. But reporting it could save your company from further breach and huge embarrassment. And if you act quick, you may be able to reverse things that just happened or locate the bad guys before they can disappear. All of those things are definitely possible if you take quick action. And I know it's never comfortable to have to go tell someone you did something stupid. I know this from personal experience. I once clicked a fish and I had to go tell my team here that I did it to make sure we didn't have any problems on our network. That's embarrassing, especially as the boss and the guy who wrote the book about phishing. But if I didn't do that and we had problems, I would be the one responsible for a major breach in the company. And wouldn't that just be ridiculous? So we can't have that. So we need to take the actions that we need to take. So to recap, always verify. Look for those subtle misspellings or unusual domains. Be cautious of unsolicited requests for confidential financial transactions. Confirm those requests like a multi-factored authentication approach. Stay educated on the up-to-date protocols for your company and make sure you always follow them. And report any activity, regardless of where you are in the timeline of attack, to the security team at your company. By taking these 5 simple steps, you can be assured that you're most likely not going to be the low-hanging fruit. And even if something does happen, that you're going to be able to get through it and hopefully not deal with some of the big news articles and news headings that we're seeing today. I hope this was enjoyable for you. You can give us your comments and your messages below. Let us know if you want more content like this. And we'll be covering some more news stories next month on the SE Etc. series. Thank you for joining us today. And until next month, stay safe, stay secure. See you.